Here is one of a series of talks by spiritual leader Lola McDowell Lee, spanning 2 decades from the early 70s through the 90s. Lola was a Zen Roshi, whose Rinzai lineage included Dr. Henry Plutov and renowned Zen master Shigetsu Sasaki. Lola was a religious scholar as well as an ordained Christian minister. While the talks are focused mainly on Zen and Buddhism, Lola drew on many spiritual traditions, including those of Jesus, Plato, Lao Tzu, the Hindu Vedas, Meister Eckhart, and Gurdjieff.
There was once a long time ago, there was a Zen master who was walking with one of his monks up in the mountains. And they came upon this little stream bubbling its way down. And they decided to sit there for a while and rest and enjoy it under the trees and the stream and all, you know. And after they'd been there for a little while, this monk now, he had the teacher all by himself, and well, he was going to use this opportunity. And so he asked him, how does one enter the gateless gate? You got it all of a sudden. And the master simply pointed to this little stream bubbling its way down, and he said, "You hear the murmur of the stream? That's entering." We could also say, you know, if we were out here and the breeze was blowing, and it's blowing through the trees, and listen, that is entering. You know, this word Zen, today I notice that, and have noticed for a while, it's bandied about considerably. And we hear all sorts of things, like people say, well, I'm in Zen, I study Zen, and the person may have attended a class or two, you know, or be somewhat interested, and would be more interested if they had the time. You know. Or maybe they've even had a little sitting under the belt. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I mean, this is the direction in which they've pointed themselves, and it's okay. But it does not mean that one has acquired what is called a Zen mind. Interest alone is not entering the stream. When one first comes across an explanation of Zen, some people are apt to say, how strange, You know, it doesn't seem to go anywhere. It leads nowhere. See? All we do is wind up with a mystery, or at least comparing this with that, and strange, huh? You know, because we are not getting any solutions in those explanations. We're only being led into further perplexities. Yeah. First of all, I think that it does take an inquiring mind. And it also takes a kind of an inner push, shall I say, toward this mystery of ourselves, you know, with the questions of who am I, what's this all about, what am I doing here, I mean, just living in this world, what am I doing here, for why or for what was I born, you know. And some people question very early in life. And some people take a long time to reach a questioning point. And to some, they hear the questions and it is of no importance. You know, why bother? Well, as long as we are in, shall we say, the Garden of Eden, we had no questions. No. What's there to question in paradise? See, all went along as it went along. But once a question raises its head, once there is this inquiry about life, once it comes upon us, as it is, as someone once said, is like poking a stick into a beehive. Thousands of inmates are disturbed. And we must find a way to deal with this disturbance, this crazy little question. Who am I? Of course, and there is the device by which one answers all these questions. You know what that is? I'm going to tell you. There is a device that answers all the questions. And I use the word device. Many years ago, there was a conference in Mexico City. And a Zen man was asked to come and talk about this new thing of, new to the West. See, this is a long time ago. This Zen. So in his talk then, this man said, "You here gathered, you psychoanalysts and you psychologists and you psychotherapists," because that's what the conference was held for, this kind of person. And he said, "As I listen, it seems to me you speak a great deal about fear and insecurity, of freedom and spontaneity, and the problem of the self." See? Now, if you wish to know how Zen is related to your subject, I can tell you that Zen offers to get rid of all these feelings to make you free, really free. Zen is able to give you freedom. But to get to Zen, you have to go beyond the structure of psychology. It is helpful, yes, and sometimes necessary, yes, but you must go beyond. Psychology knows how to study this subjective matter objectively. Objectively the fears, objectively the feelings, objectively the insecurity, so on. They make it objective. Now Zen reverses this. See, the matter is the subject subjectively. That's within, huh? Is somebody standing out there? The experience of the subject, not being lost in the object. So, but then as we all realize, or I hope we realize, we are so very caught in object. Be they things or word things. We're caught. Ideas and notions and solutions all thought out. They are all objective. They are all positioned against the subject, and it is the subject that is important. You understand this, huh? Somewhat. You know the difference between subject and object? Okay. Now, you're interested in the Zen mind. How are you going to find a Zen mind? Yeah. Well, first of all, one should have a venturesome spirit. You're willing, to do something about it. Willing to take a little bit of a risk. Let's not just sit on the edge of this abyss where we are all the time. We always sit on the edge of an abyss. We just don't realize it because we're so objective. We don't see it. We hanging to the letters, so we don't have to look at it. So let's not just sit on the edge of this abyss, sort of peering over the edge, to see if there might be some rocks at the bottom. Yeah. How deep is it? Huh? There isn't any bottom. No? It is an abyss of emptiness, so-called, huh? If you climb, and the little koan, if you climb to the top of a 100-foot pole, then what? You just going to hang out there on the top of a 100-foot pole? See? You climb to the top of a 100-foot pole and let yourself go. No. Oh, but I will lose my life. But you must lose your life once. Even Jesus said that. You lose your life for me. Yeah. And if you lose your life once in this manner, either into the abyss or from the 100-foot pole, you'll never lose it again. Even if you die, you'll never lose it again. And actually, you will live for the first time. Yeah. Now, in our Christian Bible, we read, knock and the door shall be opened unto you. But this door isn't going to be open to you in this sense. By very gingerly tap, tap, tap. Should I run? Tap, tap, tap. I guess I'd better run. Nothing is happening. I better run before it opens anyway. Yeah. The knock must be decisive. Yeah. One should thrust oneself entirely against the door, and then it opens by itself. That's what you do when you sit. You throw yourself entirely into it. And actually, no one opens it. It is neither your weight nor your strength. No. It is simply quite by itself when you are involved totally with yourself, with the subject. And if you're sitting there thinking about the subject, you're objective. Then, having put ourselves entirely against the door, then we find there was no door from the very beginning. It is a door that is no door. It is a gate that is no gate. And that's why they call it the gateless gate. And I've told a little story before about the atheist who was wandering around in the mountains, and perchance he fell over the edge of a cliff. And he finds himself hanging to this little branch that's coming out of the cliff, out of the wall, at the face of the cliff. And he peers down, and of course, there's rocks down there. I knew it. It's bottomless, it's rocks. Anyway, he is an atheist. And now what is he going to do? So he petitions God. If you really are, come and help me. If you please save me. If you save me, I will believe in you. How else will I ever come to believe in you unless you save me? And you have to save me now. Nothing happens. So he keeps on petitioning, please God, save me, I will believe. And here comes this big booming voice, oh no you won't, I've heard that before. But he keeps on, promising that he will, and finally God says, he can stand it any longer, so he says, okay, I'll save you. What should I do? Let go of the branch. Yeah. It's a cute story. Now, we think of gates and doors as entrances. How to enter the Zen mind. How to enter the kingdom. In the background of Zen, as Zen grew after Bodhidharma, we find in those early sutras their mention of two entrances. One is the entrance by reason, and one is the entrance by conduct. So we're going to do that a little bit. Entrance by reason. To read and to attend lectures and so on, until we finally come to a very deep faith, a faith in the true nature of ourselves. Now, this is very seriously to do a lot of mental work until we come to a faith of. And this is more than just a little agreement that we have inside of ourselves, and, this little dichotomy that we live in, one side yes and one side no. It's not this kind of an agreement. It is just a faith that overrides the yes and the no. We have this faith. And we have faith in the fact that we've read all this, that the true nature is one and the same in all sentient beings. It is the same in you and you and you and you and me. It is the same, one. We're all little pumpkins out in the pumpkin field. See, so that we mentally see this. And this does bring about this faith, and it comes suddenly. Suddenly this faith leaps in us. And in this faith, then, we can let go of obstacles. We can let go of our conditioning. And we can throw away some of the overwrappings, all this fancy gift wrapping paper in which we have covered ourselves. Yeah. And then to abide in what Bodhidharma called Pikwan. And now, P.I., peak of the Quan, ordinarily means a wall. Yeah. It means like a precipice, an unscalable wall, or an attitude wall. And the term Quan means to perceive, or maybe to contemplate. And so the Soto Zen, because Bodhidharma sat facing the wall of the cave, he did this Pikwan. And the Soto Zen sect sits facing the wall to perceive the unscalable wall. It's our barrier. It's our conditioning. It's unscalable. And in the perception of this wall, we penetrate it. We break through it. We don't climb up it. The thing is to penetrate, And then this term, Pikwan, changes its whole tone. It becomes a step through which the obstacles, we break through these obstacles and come to reality. Then Pikwan is a little different. And in this breakthrough, one discovers that there is neither self nor other. It is one, neither self or other. And this is called entrance by reason. You start from a reasoning position and go through. Then we have entrance by conduct. And this is broken down into 4 parts. And we are involved in all 4 parts. One is how to requite hatred, how to retaliate, how to get back, how to get even, how to make a return. Yeah, how to requite hatred. Jesus said, turn the other cheek, didn't he? Yeah. And it's not very well understood what he really meant. You know. Now, all of us struggle with adversities. We don't live in a rose garden. We live in a thorny patch, by and large. Huh? We try to do something, and there are, of course, other people involved. Let us say we're someplace and we're working and we're going to rearrange the whole office. Yeah. And then we find out that the people involved do not think kindly of us for doing this. Huh? Actually, just the opposite, you know. And we say to ourselves, finally, maybe, hopefully, I have given myself to this and they treat me so poorly. This is what we say. And maybe we should be saying to ourselves, I have given myself to unimportant details of my life at the expense of what is essential. Mm-hmm. And so I have created an occasion for ill will. So I must change my attitude. I must turn the other cheek. That's the dogs. I mean, if they hear that, they're not going to hear me. So, attitudes are both positive and negative. If you're presenting a negative attitude, you turn the other cheek. Yeah? Who can say what is going to happen to me in my lifetime, or from moment to moment, or not only to me, but to you, to anybody? Huh? Who can say what's going to happen? So I must learn to pass through life willingly. In all of the traditions, we find this little thing about do not worry over what may happen to you. Why? Because through events, through situations, one who strives to know, who wants the answers sincerely, seriously, finally comes to see this chain of causation. Yeah. It's as the Buddha stated it, you know. Death comes from birth. Birth is becoming. Becoming is grasping. Grasping is craving. And so we are here. The conditioned name and form, consciousness. The chain begins with ignorance. Our tendencies, consciousness, name and form, the sense organs, all of the senses, the clinging, the becoming, the birth, the old age, and death. So I look at this chain of causation, and it is very nice when you can see it all at one swoop, instead of going through it piecemeal, mentally, just to see it at one swoop. Right? So then I look at this, and this whole chain of causation. What is the cause then of my ups and downs? I was born. I was born in ignorance, and hopefully I will die in consciousness. Yeah. I was born, and I am in a state of becoming. Now, number 3 is how to be obedient to karma. Well, term karma, the word karma is usually bandied about and misunderstood pretty much like the word Zen is. So maybe we should take a deeper view of this situation. I've told you before, the word karma means activity. It's your activity. Where do you find your activity? In your body. The genes and the chromosomes. And the genes and the chromosomes hold all of the activities of the past. All the past mothers and fathers from the beginning. All of them. All these things that they have had to deal with and so on and so forth through the genes and chromosomes are in you now. Yeah. This is what you have inherited. On one hand, your body. Huh? You know, when it's dust to dust, and then the body again comes from the red earth, what are you picking up? Not you, but comes together. Yeah, to make a body. So on one hand, your karma. On the other hand, you have also inherited, because you have a body, the beginninglessness and the endlessness. That's your karma potentially or inherently. But you're going to choose. Ordinarily, usually, people take the word karma as it was brought over from India. You know, as you sow, so shall you reap. And but however, now perceiving this chain of causation and perceiving the mind, and we come to this subject subjectively. We find there is no entity self. If you really press through this barrier of yourself, you will find not an entity that you can call self. You may call it something else, but not an entity self. And that's why it's so difficult to grasp. It's not an object entity. Then, in the ordinary sense of the way the word karma is used, wherein we think of as you sow, so shall you reap, for an infinite number of lives, and then we're going to pay and pay and pay and pay and pay. But if there is no entity self, to whom does the karma belong? If you, in your meditation, suddenly woke up and you saw life as it is, not existence, but life, that which subsists under existence, life. Yeah? And suddenly you woke up and you saw, you perceived, and you woke up free. You're free from all the bondage. Yeah? So you would be free of karma in the ordinary sense, right? Yeah. Then where did it go? You're free. You're free of it. Where did it go? Okay, now the third is by not seeking after anything. And now, we, people all over the world, are in some confusion. And I think that's understated. Yep. We are attached to this, and we are attached to that, and we are attached to the other. Those who free themselves, those who wake up, those who realize, which is more than understand, realize what they are, Their minds abide in what is called the uncreated. Somehow, in our becoming, we don't hook onto this little thing that wherever we can say, oh, this is bright, it is followed automatically by this is dark. Merit is followed by demerit. Blame follows praise. Always we have this enantiodromius. The movement of light and dark, of pain and pleasure. Winter follows summer, and in summer it is hot, and winter it is cold. Why make something else out of it? It's pretty simple the way it is. Pretty neat. So, in our meditation and in what we do with our lives every day, we try to understand a state of non-attachment. And then the last one is being in accord with the Dharma. And the Dharma, the way or the law, the way it functions, the way, the law. And then the dharmas, the little 10,000 things that function in the Dharma. Yeah. In essence, the Dharma is pure. And there is no other in it. It is just what it is, all. It is free from all stains of selfhood. It is free from all stains. To realize this, that it is free of self and all stains of selfhood, to perceive this and to act accordingly, of course, in accord with the Dharma. And that's entrance by conduct. So we have entrance by reason and entrance by conduct, and I'm sorry, but you need to do the two. You don't have a choice. Yeah. And if you do the two, and really do the two, oh, you will be so glad. Yeah. Because it all still comes down to this, like we read in the Upanishads, in the heart of all things, of whatsoever there is, in this universe, dwells the Lord. In the heart of all things. He alone is the reality. And you notice that in India and in Christianity and in Judaism, they always say he. Never she. That's how much they were afraid of women. He. He alone is the reality. Why didn't they just say it? It alone is the reality. Wherefore, renouncing vain appearances, rejoice in him. Covet no man's wealth. It is he that has gone abroad, that which is bright, bodiless, without scar of imperfection, without sinews, pure, unpierced by evil, the seer, the thinker, the one who becomes everywhere. The one who becomes everywhere. We are born, we are becoming. The one who is becoming everywhere. Pure and unpierced, bodiless. Don't mix him up. And fire is hot. and the wind moves, and water is wet, and the earth is hard. Yeah? You know, the earth is solid, the earth is steady. You know, so be like the great earth, solid. See? Don't hold all these thoughts of egoism, vain appearances. You know, there is no going out, there is no coming in. When this mind, which neither goes out nor comes in, enters that which is never entered, it is called entering. Yeah. Anyway, from the first few hundred years after Bodhidharma to Wei Ning, the practice, and in China, the practice of Chan was very similar to what we find today in, we find more, I guess, around the year 1100 in the Mahamudra of Tibet. The Indian influence is very strong in this early Chan teaching, from the first to the fifth patriarch. And the sixth one, he changes it all around. The Tao Tong school, which today we call the Soto sect. I like the word, I like the other one better, Tao Tong. Huh? It still retains somewhat of the Indian flavor. You know. And now, from Hui Ning and Wang Po and some of the others, you know, the koan, or the case presented, came into great prominence. The stories, then, they were taken from the mundo, the questions and answers of the masters and their students, you know. And the mundos then became the problems to be faced. Yeah. And the one question which Bodhidharma found upon his arrival in China, you know, before good and evil, that's the original. And people worked with that until they died, achieved, and then kept working on it. Yeah. Before good and evil, before your mother and father, before any duality, before any attitudes, pro and con, what was your original nature? Now, that one developed into 3, and then developed into 5, and today we have 1,700. And as far as I know, Muri Roshi was the one who did the most with him. He answered 600 koan, which is incredible. Now, the meditation and all the talks that you partake in, you do partake in them, because a talk is no good with somebody just talking if there isn't a listener. Yeah? So, and the case presented with which you work. All of that takes place in a hondo or in a zendo or whatever you want to call it. All of it points to the subjective nature, but is ordinarily called self-nature. Self-nature is not ego nature. No. It is a self-nature that is no self, no entity self. It points to an innocence, and that is extremely important. And Jesus said too, suffer the little children to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. It points to a simplicity of just living simple. Children live simply. They've got all this tremendous energy, and their life is very simple. You know. And living in this simplicity so naturally is called living in the Dharma. Now, there was this lay student that asked his master, before you became enlightened, what did you do? Well, I used to chop wood and carry water. And then this person asked, and now that you have become enlightened, what do you do? I chop wood and carry water. It's not the idea that we have, is it? We have an idea, people in India, they became enlightened, and he's a guru, and he sits there, and he has all these students that wait on him hand and foot, and he brings in the Rolls Royces or something. Huh? Over there it's flowers, and food. And but anyway, this student was very puzzled by this because it was the same answer to both questions before and after. So this master very kindly said to him, before I had to do it, now it happens. Quite naturally. I chop wood and know the beauty of the act. I carry water and see the wonder. It's not a duty. My old master used to order me to do the chores. Now it does it all by itself. It is simple. It is simple. An attitude toward life that is simple. It is innocent. It is natural. Innocence doesn't require any ego desires. Once something is required, everything becomes very complex. We've got to scheme and plan and maneuver. But just having a very simple response to this moment. Ideas that some people have as to how the Buddha may have lived. Well, if I live like that, I'm going to try to live like that. I will live like that, and I will become a Buddha. Or they have this thing about how Jesus lived, and I'm going to live like that, and I will become a Christ-like. No. To both. No. If you're doing that sort of thing, you are imposing something on yourself. You're imposing your ideas, or you're imposing someone else's ideas. Some of these ideas that you have borrowed from what you have read, or what you have heard, or what we have heard back through the past. And if you're past 50 or 40, there's been a lot of things that we have heard and read in our groping around to try to get where we are. Now, if you're putting all that on yourself, how could you ever be natural? With all this borrowed clothing. Yeah? You couldn't be natural, you couldn't be simple, and you certainly couldn't be innocent. That state of innocence really is a state. Yeah. You cannot be Shakyamuni Buddha, but you can be a Buddha. You can't be Jesus, but you can be Christ consciousness, and that's your birthright. Yeah. It's your inherent potential. Be that. Yeah? Don't be a phony. And so I say, it seems to me, forever and amen. I don't care what you do out there. Only do not deceive yourself. If you lie, and you know you're lying, and you're not deceiving yourself, I can forgive it. Try to get somebody to do something for you, and you make up all these excuses why, you are deceiving yourself. Do not, above all, do not deceive yourself. Over and over and over and over, we hear this, the original face, your original nature. The only way to see your original face is to drop all the imitation, what we have imitated. Yeah. Life may not turn out the way you expected it. May not. Surely not. No. Yeah. We've had our dreams, we're 20, and by the time we're 45, we're going to retire with $1 million. Does life turn out that way? Girl meets boy, they get married. Does it turn out the way they dreamed it would? Rarely. Yeah. Life is a constant surprise. Always. You're always opening Pandora's box. Every moment, huh? You cannot prepare beforehand. You know, life itself has no rehearsals. You know, just live it. You live the ups and the downs and know that this is the enantiodromia functioning. The ups and the downs and the precious moments and the not so precious moments. You know, moments that we wish would never happen. You know, just live it. Live it in your own simplicity. Of course, we run smack dab into another problem. You can't practice to be simple. The very effort, you know, destroys simplicity. So you be simplicity. Just be it, huh? We can't cultivate life. It just is. A person can be forced to live very frugally through circumstances. And Lord knows, you know, many have been forced to. And in places like Africa, Uganda, and so on, you know, frugally doesn't cover the situation. No. Anyway, we hear this thing, blessed are the poor, for they shall enter the kingdom. And now in this world of ours, there is lots of poverty. There are poor people. How many of them are enlightened because they're poor? People do things with parts of their lives, thinking if they're poor, and so they give things away, and so they're sitting there, and poverty has become a blessing. Do you think because of that you will find yourself? To know this that Jesus was talking about in the Beatitudes, blessed are the poor, you have got to face a problem, a case, you know, problem to be observed. We can call it a koan. And that simply is, foxes have their holes and birds have their nests, but the Son of Man hath nowhere to lay his head. Yeah. You can live in a palace with all the luxuries. If you live in the moment, in the midst of all that luxuries, you live in simplicity. You may not have any possessions, but you may be very possessive. You may have many possessions and not be possessive. To be non-possessive is non-attachment. Now, we have this little story about a king who was very impressed by a very simple, innocent monk who sat under a tree near the palace. And the king would go over and talk to him from time to time about religion and about his problems and so on. And he was very impressed with this man. He observed him. He inquired about his character. And step by step, always asking, can I trust him? You know. He had detectives out checking him. And they found there was no dark spot. He was clean. And finally, the king convinced himself that this monk really was a simple person. He was a true monk. So the king went to this monk sitting under the tree, and he said, I would like to invite you to come to the palace to live. Why sit under a tree? And you know, the king expected him to say, no. You know, I'm a simple man, I was fine under the tree. What this monk said was, Okay, let's go. Yeah? Bring your chariot and I will come to the palace. When one comes to a palace, one should come in style, so bring the chariot. Yeah? And the king was just shocked. Yeah. And he began to think to himself, well, he's a fraud. You know, he's cheating me. He's pretending all this simplicity. But it was too late. He had invited him and he couldn't go back on his word. But oh, how begrudgingly he ordered the chariot. He didn't even refuse me once. He didn't even let me persuade him. And the monk was so happy, sitting in the chariot like a king, and the king was so sad, sitting in the chariot like a beggar. And now this king had arranged the best room in the palace for the monk, if he should come. If. See, this is the split in the human mind, which somehow or another we don't want to confront. Yeah. We do one thing and we expect another. You watch it. Yeah? Anyway, the monk now is living in the palace and he's really living it up. Bring this, bring that. He's having a gay time, you know, ordering all around. After all, he said, if you live in a palace, live like a king. You know, in fact, he was living better than the king because the king was very heavy of heart, and he had all his worries besides that about the kingdom, and the monk had none. You know, sleep when he wanted to sleep, enjoy the garden, enjoy the swimming pool, and the king seethed around that palace saying, this man is a parasite. Yeah. So one morning, the king met the monk in the garden, and he said to him, I want to say something to you. And the monk said, yes, you wanted to say it before I left the tree. Why did you wait so long? And out comes all this peevishness, you know, feeling that he'd been taken advantage of, and finally asking, we seem to be the same. What is the difference between me and you? I have to work, and I worry. I have all kinds of responsibilities. I'm jealous. You live in more possessions than I do. Every day you demand, and all the food you want. What's the difference between you and me? And this monk laughed, and he says, you come with me and I'm going to show you. And they left the palace, and they crossed the town, and they crossed the river, and they continued on. And the king kept asking, why not answer now? What is the point of going on? You know, what's the difference between you and me? You know, well, the monk kept saying, I'm looking for just the right place. I'm looking for the right place. So finally they came to the borders of the kingdom, and the king absolutely refused to go a step further. He would not step outside of his kingdom. So the monk said, well, this is what I've been looking for. Now, I am not going back. Are you coming with me, or are you going back? Well, how can I come with you? I have a kingdom. I have possessions. I have my wives. I have my children. I have my money. I have my jewels. How could I possibly come with you? Now you see the difference? Huh? I'm going. I lived in that palace with all kinds of possessions, but I'm not possessive. I go. See, and he took off the clothes that the king had given him, and he put on his little loincloth, and he gave the clothes to the king and said, keep your clothes and be happy again. No. The difference is non-attachment. You know? Not the things, but your attitude toward them, for one thing, and to really this state of non-attachment. Yeah? Then there is another entrance. It is called mutual. Listen. Do you hear the murmur of the stream? now may the peace and the power that passeth all understanding hold us and keep us in the love of the Christed consciousness while we are seemingly separate one from another. And I thank you, and I will see you this evening.
If you find Lola's talks valuable, more will be posted in weeks to come.